So, what actually makes a great manager? Is it being the smartest person in the room? Is it just about being a friend to your team? Or is it something else? For years, most companies just went with their gut feeling. But one company decided they wanted a real, data-backed answer, and they started by asking a pretty wild question.
So to really understand the value of managers, Google, a company that's all about engineering and a healthy dose of skepticism, decided to test a pretty wild idea. What if they just didn't need managers at all?
Yep, you heard that right. They literally got rid of them. It was called a delayering. They completely flattened the whole organization. No managers, no bosses, just engineers working on projects. I mean, it sounds like an engineer's paradise, doesn't it?
So what do you think happened? When you take away that entire management layer from a company that is packed with brilliant people, did productivity just go through the roof? Did innovation just explode with all that newfound freedom?
Well, it was total chaos. It turns out, even simple stuff like approving vacation time, sorting out arguments between people, or just getting a final decision on something, it all became impossible. Everything just escalated right to the top, to the company's founders. The experiment proved one thing really, really fast. Managers were absolutely necessary. But that just raised an even bigger question. If having no managers is chaos, what is it that they're actually supposed to be doing? What's their real value?
Okay, so having proven that they needed managers, Google launched this huge research initiative they called Project Oxygen. The goal? To figure out what the great managers were doing that the not-so-great ones weren't. And of course, they were going to do it the Google way.
Instead of just reading some management books or copying what other companies were doing, Google treated this like an engineering problem. They figured, hey, let's just gather our own data and let the numbers tell us what actually works for our people right here.
Their method was actually pretty brilliant. They looked at two key things. First, the manager's official performance review. That's kind of the view from the top. And second, they looked at the team's feedback from their annual Google Guys survey, which is their huge company-wide poll. That's the bottom-up view. By putting those two together, they could get a really clear picture of who their best and their worst managers were.
And wow, the results were undeniable. This wasn't just a feeling, it was a statistical fact. Teams that had those top-tier managers performed better on literally every metric that mattered. They got more done, they were way more satisfied, and they were a lot less likely to quit. So the big takeaway here is, managers don't just matter a little bit. They are a massive lever for a team's success.
So now that they knew that great managers make a huge difference, the next step was to figure out what were these top managers actually doing. They dug through thousands of comments and did tons of interviews to pinpoint the specific behaviors that set the best apart from the rest.
This was it, the million-dollar question. What were the magic ingredients? Was it all about being a genius coder? Was it about having a brilliant strategy? Or was it something else entirely? The answer to this was about to become the foundation for how Google trains all of its leaders. So the data pointed to these 8 key behaviors. Now, some of them you'd probably expect, right? Like having a clear vision and being results-oriented. But a whole bunch of them were really focused on the human side of things, being a good coach, empowering your team instead of breathing down their necks, actually listening and showing you care about their well-being and their careers. Oh, and yeah, having technical skills was on the list, but where it landed was the biggest surprise of all.
And here it is, the biggest shocker of the whole study. At a company built by engineers for engineers, you'd think that technical expertise would be number one, right? Nope, it was dead last. The single most important quality of a great manager at Google wasn't how well they could code, but how well they could coach. It was the soft skills that made all the difference.
Okay, so having this amazing list is one thing, but data is pretty useless if you don't do anything with it. So Google's next move was to figure out how to weave these 8 behaviors into the company's DNA, turning all this research into a system people could actually use. They built it into every single stage. When they were hiring, they started looking for these skills. When they were training new managers, they taught them these 8 behaviors, and they often had the best managers do the teaching. And maybe most importantly, they created a feedback loop. Twice a year, every manager gets a kind of report card from their own team, rating them on these exact 8 things.
So did it actually work? Oh yeah, the numbers don't lie. Manager satisfaction scores, as rated by their own people, saw a really significant and steady climb across the whole company. By figuring out what mattered and then holding people to that standard, they systematically made their entire leadership team better.
But the story doesn't just end with a checklist of 8 things to do. A few years later, another big research project at Google called Project Aristotle was looking at what made great teams. and it uncovered this underlying secret sauce that really makes all 8 of those behaviors work. And that secret sauce is something called psychological safety. It's basically the feeling that you can take a risk on a team, that you can ask a stupid question, or admit that you made a mistake without being embarrassed or punished for it. It's the foundation of trust that lets a team really click.
And this is how it all connects. Those 8 behaviors aren't just a to-do list. They are the tools a manager uses to build psychological safety. When a manager coaches you, when they really listen, when they show they care about you, they're building trust. And when they admit they don't have all the answers and empower the team to figure it out together, they're creating that safe space. That's the real magic.
So we'll end with this question. Google started by asking if managers even mattered, and they ended up creating this powerful system for building happier, more productive, and more innovative teams. It just makes you wonder, right? What could that kind of leadership unlock for all of us?